The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does address the placement of receptacle outlets along exterior walls, including those with floor-to-ceiling windows. Let's clarify the specific requirements based on Section 210.52 ATWO and 210.52c of the NEC. Section 210.52 ATWO generally discusses wall space and receptacle placement in dwelling units. It provides some exceptions regarding fixed panels of exterior walls. This section initially states that receptacle outlets are not required along fixed panels of exterior walls that are 12 feet or wider. However, this needs to be considered in conjunction with other sections, especially when dealing with floor-to-ceiling windows. Now, let's consider Section 210.52c, which specifically addresses receptacle outlets for exterior walls. This section requires receptacle outlets on exterior walls and has two main points. Firstly, for every 12 feet of exterior wall length measured along the floor line, a receptacle outlet is required. Secondly, where the exterior wall is 4 feet or less in width, one receptacle outlet should be required. When applying these rules to floor-to-ceiling windows, particularly those exceeding 4 feet in width, Section 210.52c takes precedence. Because floor-to-ceiling windows are essentially large glass panels forming part of the exterior wall, they fall under the general requirements for exterior walls. Therefore, if the window spans more than 4 feet, you must install a receptacle outlet to meet NEC requirements. The NEC mandates that receptacle outlets be readily accessible. In the case of floor-to-ceiling windows, this generally means installing floor-mounted receptacle outlets within 18 inches of the window. This ensures that the outlets are conveniently located for use with lamps, appliances, or other electrical devices. It is crucial to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any local amendments to ensure compliance with the specific requirements in your jurisdiction. Local building codes may have additional or more stringent requirements than the NEC. Common mistakes in this area include assuming that the exception in Section 210.52 ATWO for fixed panels applies to all floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the specific requirements of Section 210.52c for exterior walls, and failing to properly space receptacle outlets along lawn window walls. Now let's consider examples of how these rules apply. Imagine a room with a floor-to-ceiling window that is 6 feet wide. According to Section 210.52c, a receptacle outlet is required along this window wall. The outlet should be installed no more than 18 inches from the window, typically floor-mounted. Now consider a very large window wall that is 20 feet long. In this case, Section 210.52 code dictates that outlets must be placed every 12 feet. Therefore, you would need at least 2 receptacle outlets along this wall, ensuring that each outlet is within 12 feet of another. Also consider a narrow section of exterior wall that is only 3 feet wide and contains a small window. According to Section 210.52c2, 1 receptacle outlet is still required on this wall, even though it is less than 4 feet wide. This ensures that even small wall spaces have access to electrical outlets. When planning electrical installations near floor-to-ceiling windows, carefully measure the length of the window wall. Determine the number of receptacle outlets needed based on the 12-foot spacing rule. Choose appropriate receptacle outlets for floor mounting, considering factors such as aesthetics, durability, and safety. Ensure that the receptacle outlets are installed according to all applicable codes and regulations, including grounding and wiring requirements. The NEC aims to provide a minimum standard for electrical safety. Properly installed receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows enhance convenience and reduce the risk of electrical hazard. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical installations meet all applicable requirements and are performed safely and correctly. Now, let's delve into the specifics of how to interpret the relevant sections of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, regarding receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows. We'll break down the language and provide practical examples to help clarify the requirements. Section 210.52 ATWO addresses wall space in dwelling units, but its application to floor-to-ceiling windows can be confusing. The section generally requires that receptacle outlets be installed so that no point along the floor line of any wall space is more than 6 feet measured horizontally from an outlet in that space. This is often referred to as the 6-foot rule. The exception for fixed panels of exterior walls, which are 12 feet or wider, can create confusion when dealing with floor-to-ceiling windows. This exception is intended for large, non-operable sections of exterior walls that are essentially part of the building's structure. However, floor-to-ceiling windows, even if fixed, are typically considered differently due to their function and the potential need for electrical outlets nearby. Section 210.52c provides specific guidance for receptacle outlets on exterior walls. This section is critical for understanding the requirements for floor-to-ceiling windows. It supersedes the general rules in Section 210.52 at when dealing with exterior walls. Subsection 1 of 210.52c states that for every 12 feet of exterior wall length measured along the floor line, a receptacle outlet is required. This means that if a floor-to-ceiling window extends for more than 4 feet along an exterior wall, you must install a receptacle outlet. Subsection 2 of 210.52c further clarifies that even if the exterior wall is 4 feet or less in width, one receptacle outlet is still required. This ensures that even small sections of exterior walls have access to electrical outlets. Floor-to-ceiling windows are considered part of the exterior wall for the purpose of these rules. Therefore, if a window exceeds 4 feet in width, a receptacle outlet is required. The outlet should be installed within 18 inches of the window, typically floor-mounted, to comply with accessibility requirements. Let's consider some more detailed examples. Imagine a living room with a floor-to-ceiling window that spans 8 feet of an exterior wall. According to Section 210.52 a receptacle outlet is required. The outlet should be installed within 18 inches of the window, providing a convenient power source for lamps or other devices. Now consider a dining room with a series of floor-to-ceiling windows that extend for a total of 15 feet along an exterior wall. In this case, you would need at least 2 receptacle outlets. One outlet should be placed near one end of the window, and the other outlet should be placed no more than 12 feet away. This ensures that the entire length of the window wall is adequately covered. Imagine a small office with a floor-to-ceiling window that is only 3 feet wide. Even though the window is less than 4 feet wide, Section 210.52c2 still requires a receptacle outlet. This outlet should be installed nearby to provide convenient access to power. Common misconceptions about these rules include believing that the exception for fixed panels in Section 210.52 applies to all floor-to-ceiling windows, assuming that receptacle outlets are not needed if the window is less than 12 feet wide, and forgetting to consider the specific requirements of Section 210.52c for exterior walls. To avoid these mistakes, always carefully measure the length of the window wall. Refer to the latest edition of the NEC and any local amendments. Consult with a qualified electrician to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your electrical installations near floor-to-ceiling windows are safe, convenient, and code compliant. Remember that the NEC is intended to provide a minimum standard for electrical safety, and it is essential to adhere to these requirements to protect occupants and prevent electrical hazards. Let's further explore the practical aspects of installing receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows, addressing common challenges and offering best practice solutions. One of the main challenges is determining the appropriate location for the receptacle outlet. The NEC specifies that the outlet should be within 18 inches of the window, but the exact placement can vary depending on the design of the room and the type of window. In most cases, floor-mounted receptacle outlets are the most practical option. These outlets are designed to be installed flush with the floor, providing a discrete and convenient power source. However, other options may be considered, such as wall-mounted outlets installed at a low level or even outlets integrated into the window frame. Another challenge is selecting the right type of receptacle outlet. Several factors should be considered, including the amperage rating, the type of receptacle, and the aesthetic appearance. For general purpose use, a standard 15 amp or 20 amp receptacle outlet is typically sufficient. However, if the outlet will be used to power high current devices such as air conditioners or space heaters, a higher amperage outlet may be required. The type of receptacle should also be chosen based on the intended use. For example, a tamper-resistant receptacle outlet may be required in areas where children are present. The aesthetic appearance of the receptacle outlet is also an important consideration, especially in high-end residential or commercial spaces. Receptacle outlets are available in a variety of colors, styles, and finishes to match the decor of the room. Installation of receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows requires careful attention to detail. The wiring must be properly installed and grounded to ensure safety. The receptacle outlet must be securely mounted to the floor or wall. All applicable codes and regulations must be followed. It is always recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform the installation. A qualified electrician will have the knowledge, skills, and experience to ensure that the installation is done safely and correctly. They will also be familiar with all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the NEC requirements, local building codes may have additional or more stringent requirements. It is important to check with your local building department to determine the specific requirements in your area. By addressing these practical aspects and following best practice solutions, you can ensure that your receptacle outlet installations near floor-to-ceiling windows are safe, convenient, and code compliant. Remember that the NEC is intended to provide a minimum standard for electrical safety, and it is essential to adhere to these requirements to protect occupants and prevent electrical hazards. Consulting with a qualified electrician is always a good idea to ensure that your electrical installations are done correctly and safely. Finally, let's discuss some advanced considerations related to receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows, including energy efficiency, smart home integration, and future-proofing your electrical system. Energy efficiency is becoming increasingly important in modern building design. Receptacle outlets near floor-to-ceiling windows can play a role in energy management by providing convenient power sources for window treatments, such as motorized shades or blinds. These window treatments can help to reduce solar heat gain in the summer and heat loss in the winter, thereby reducing energy consumption. Smart home integration is another emerging trend. Receptacle outlets can be integrated into smart home systems to provide remote control and monitoring of electrical devices. This can allow you to turn off lights and appliances when they are not in use, further reducing energy consumption. Smart receptacle outlets can also provide valuable data on energy usage, helping you to identify areas where you can save money. Future-proofing your electrical system is also an important consideration. As technology continues to evolve, electrical demands are likely to increase. It is important to ensure that your electrical system is capable of meeting these future demands. This may involve installing additional receptacle outlets, upgrading your electrical panel, or adding dedicated circuits for high current devices. When planning receptacle outlet installations near floor-to-ceiling windows, consider these advanced considerations to ensure that your electrical system is energy efficient, smart, and future-proof. By incorporating these advanced features, you can enhance the comfort, convenience, and sustainability of your home or building. Remember that the NEC is a constantly evolving document, and it is important to stay up to date on the latest changes and requirements. Consulting with a qualified electrician is always a good idea to ensure that your electrical installations are done correctly, safely, and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations.